We have two more questions.
Thanks for the session tonight. I just have a quick question on career advice.
Quick question on what?
Career advice.
Career advice.
So you talked a lot about financial market going down and production of real things as an area that we should be looking at. And someone like me who just started my career in financial industry, but I'm interested in studying the area that you mentioned, but there are many avenues that you can get into. You can be the real producer, or you can be the futures trader that supports that market. What is your advice on studying or finding your own niche in that area that's going on?
Well, if you're convinced that finance is what you want to do, I mean, it's like I said to you before, when I went into finance, it was a backward, it was a nightmare. If that's what you really love and it's your passion, you first figure out what you love. But in my view, if you're going to be in finance, the only dynamic place to be in finance in the future is going to be commodities, whether that's gold or silver or wheat or rice or natural gas or oil. There are many ways to get involved. You can be a trader, you can be an analyst, you can be an investor, a portfolio manager. You can also get involved with commodities in other ways. You can transport them. I mean, Singapore's a transportation hub. Somebody has to move all that coal, all that oil around the world. You may find what you really prefer is tankers or ships or being a broker for shipping movements. You can, as I said, you can get the Lamborghini dealership. If you're really bullish on commodities and you think that the place to be is go to Iowa in the U.S. and get the Lamborghini dealership, or open a chain of restaurants in an agricultural area, or a chain of department stores in a mining area, because those are the areas, in my view, that are going to be successful and where people are going to make fortunes. But there are many, many, many ways to do it. Figure out that's what you really love first, and then focus on those areas. I were a bright young man or a bright young woman in 2011, and I was passionate about finance. I would go to some of the firms which focus on real goods, on agriculture, gold, silver, whatever it happens to be, and I would get a job even if I had to be the receptionist, because once you're in these firms, once you're in these places, then you can move. If you're the best receptionist they've ever seen, eventually they're going to start listening to you when you talk about other things, and you'll be able to move within the firm. So you may run into problems here in the early days of getting a job, but figure out what you love the most, and then go to that sector of the company. Be the receptionist, as I say, if you have to, and if you're really good, you'll stand out and you'll work your way up. Don't think something's beneath you, because it's not. And if you're good, they'll find you. They need good people. Whoever has the mic.
I don't know if you remember me, but about 2 years ago.
I can't even see you, so I don't know if you remember.
About 2 years ago, I gave a presentation on Singapore and why Singapore is so great. I don't know if you remember.
You gave me what was Singapore?
A presentation, a PowerPoint presentation.
You don't know why Singapore is great. Yeah, well, I agree that Singapore is great.
Yeah.
Did I make myself clear? I think Singapore is great.
Yes. I also lived in many countries, and I'm very, very happy to have found Singapore. Back in the day, I also started a business trading bullion, physical silver. And I remember back then you told me you'd be making a lot of money doing this. So it was about $30 back then.
Right, and so you really owe me a lot, don't you? Go ahead.
But I did this even before I knew you.
You can admit it. You only learned a presentation. Go ahead.
You steadied me. You confirmed many of my. You gave me a lot of courage. So yes.
And I remember your girlfriend too. Is she with you tonight?
Michelle is here. New girlfriend.
I told you. Anyway, go ahead. Anyhow, Michelle, glad to meet you.
Well, like to know, I know you're bullish on silver. I would like to ask you the reasons why you're bullish on silver, especially now it's $40, so quite a bit higher than most back then. And my second question was, I know you shorted the US bonds, which is something I've been holding on, waiting to trigger and do the same thing. And shortly after you did that, when Bernanke came around and kind of said, okay, QE3 might be coming earlier than expected. So my question now, is it prudent to wait a little bit, as yields might be going down a little bit more, or?
And you know, I kept telling you, I'm not going to give you hot tips. Everybody keep asking for hot tips. Silver, I do own silver. Yes, I own some silver. I have some right here in my pocket. You never know when you might need a little silver. So I have some here. I'm bullish on silver because I'm bullish on all commodities. To go back to that, for two reasons. One, there's been very little investment in productive capacity for 25 or 30 years for all commodities. If you look at things like agriculture, for instance, the average age of farmers in America is 58 years old. In 10 years, if they're still alive, they'll be 68 years old. You can see that farming is facing huge problems in the future. There's been only one lead mine opened in the world in 25 or 30 years. So all productive capacity has been under duress for commodities, and so because of supply and demand, I am optimistic going forward. Silver specifically, well, gold, for instance, made an all-time high this week. Many people are keen on gold, but silver is still 20% below its all-time high. Doesn't mean silver is going to go up, but at least compared to gold, which is far above its all-time, which is almost double its all-time high, silver is still 25% below its all-time high. Silver is still considered a precious metal. It has an industrial use as well. So silver has, in my view, is going to go much, much, much higher. I told you that at 13. I will tell you, I'll repeat it again at 40. Don't sell your silver, not yet anyway, because it's going to go much higher over the next decade. For those reasons and others. And the second part of your question, about
the second part was about the U.S. bonds.
U.S. bonds. Look, I'm a terrible trader. I'm the single worst short-term trader in the world. Not the single worst in this room. I am the worst in the world. So don't look at me for short-term or market timing advice. I'm short U.S. government bonds at the moment. I don't know if I'll be short them forever. You're right. If they go down or if they go up. Bernanke or somebody may do something foolish. They may come to some kind of quote deal in Washington, deal in Europe. Who knows? But I do know, and I may cover. If they go down, I may cover. But if they go up, I may cover. But I do know that somewhere in the next few months or years, I'm going to be shorting bonds in a big way. The United States is going down the tubes. It's the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. They are printing more government bonds every day, staggering amounts of bonds. America can never pay off its debt. Never. You figure out the numbers, it's simple arithmetic. You'll see that it cannot be done, what America's doing. I cannot conceive of why any Asian bank buys U.S. government bonds. I'm glad they do, because they drive them up so I can sell more. It's good to me that these Asian banks are doing this kind of foolishness. But I don't know the timing, but I know that the U.S. government bond market is going to go down for two reasons. One, huge amounts of debt coming, and secondly, more and more inflation. Inflation is here. Many governments lie about it. The press lies about it. The UK lies about it. Asian governments don't lie about it for the most part. They may lie about the extent of the inflation, but at least they admit they have inflation. So between inflation and the huge amounts of debts which are coming, and the problems, the eventual problems with the U.S. dollar, I mean, long-term U.S. government bonds are a great short. I cannot conceive of lending money to the United States government for 30 years at 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%, you pick the interest rate, in U.S. dollars. I mean, that is incomprehensible to me. One of the few bubbles that I see forming in the world is the long-term United States government bond market. But don't ask me about the timing. Ask Chris, he's good at it. Chris is good at timing. I'm hopeless. Is that it?
Oh, no, one more question.
Okay. Whoever has the mic.
Richard Wright. With Japan government bonds at 15 trillion Sing dollars yielding 1.25%, and China's increasing their deposit yield to 3.5%, why don't you sell your yen and some Japan government bonds also?
If I understood you correctly, I didn't understand the first part. You're saying that in Japan they have huge debts and low interest rates?
Yes.
Okay. And why don't I sell the yen and sell Japanese government bonds?
Yeah, well, because they'll be monetizing.
Well, the main reason, a difference is the fact that Japan is the second largest international creditor nation in the world. There is no question Japan has serious problems. Japan has staggering internal debts. But Japan is the second largest after China international creditor nation in the world. They have huge foreign currency reserves. You contrast the United States, which is the largest a huge internal debtor nation and a huge external debtor nation, and they're printing the money. Now, the Japanese are guilty of that too. But because of the things that I just said, and part of what you said, there are huge amounts of Japanese yen, which is offshore. The Japanese, since interest rates have been so low, as you point out, staggering amounts of Japanese money has left Japan to Australia, Europe, America, looking for higher yields. The Japanese government is giving incentives for that money to come back, and in my view, more of that money will come back, which will cause the final spike in the value of the Japanese yen. And I hope I'm smart enough to sell at the right time. Look, Japan has staggering problems longer term. Japan, for those of you who don't know, has one of the lowest birth rates in the world. Unfortunately, Singapore does too, but at least Singapore is bringing in immigrants to rectify that. Japan won't allow immigrants. The Japanese have three choices. They can either have babies, which they refuse to do for some reason. They should listen to me. I should go and give more lectures. They won't have babies, and they refuse to allow immigrants. They just absolutely refuse to allow immigrants. So the third choice is to have a declining standard of living. De facto, the Japanese have decided to have a declining standard of living. They have the largest, staggering internal debts. So 5, 10, 15 years from now, Japan's going to be a basket case. I don't know where we're going to get our sushi. Because things are going to be really bad in Japan. But at the moment, because they do have these huge reserves, and actually the aging population will help them to some extent because they won't import as much. So I own the Japanese yen. So thank you.